Oh, I'm on. Peace. In the historical and cultural fashion of my forefathers, allow me to salute you. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. So let's set the tone. I'm going to start with Proverbs chapter 16. The preparations of the heart in man and the answers of the tongue is from the Lord. All the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes, but the Lord weigheth the spirits. Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. The Lord hath made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil. Every one that is proud in heart is an abomination to the Lord. Though hand join in hand, he shall not be unpunished. Verse 6. By mercy and truth, iniquity is purged, and by the fear of the Lord men depart from evil. When a man's ways pleases the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. Better is a little with righteousness than great revenues without right. A man's heart devises his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. A divine sentence is in the lips of the king. His mouth transgresseth not in judgment. A just weight and balance are the Lord's. All the weight of the bag are his work. It is an abomination to kings. It is an abomination to kings to commit wickedness, for the throne is established by righteousness. Let me go ahead and read that again. Getting there. It is an abomination to kings to commit wickedness, for the throne is established by righteousness. Righteous lips are the delight of kings, and they love him that speaketh right. The wrath of a king is as messengers of death, but a wise man will pacify it. In the light of the king's countenance is life, and his favor is a cloud of the later rain. How much better is it to have wisdom, or to get wisdom, than gold, and to understand rather than to be chosen than silver? The highway of the upright is to depart from evil. He that keepeth his way preserveth his soul. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before the fall. Better it is to be of an humble spirit with the lowly than to devise the spoil with the proud. He that handleth a matter wisely shall find good, and whoso trusteth in the Lord, happy is he. The wise in heart shall be called prudent, and the sweetness of the lips increaseth learning. This is all game. Understanding is a wellspring of life into him that hath it. But the instruction of fools is folly. 23, the heart of the wise teacheth his mouth, and aideth learning to his lips. Pleasant words are as a honeycomb, sweet to the soul, and health to the bones. There is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. He that laboreth, he laboreth for himself, for his mouth craveth it of him. An ungodly man diggeth up evil, and in his lips there is a burning fire. A froward man soweth strife, and a whisperer separateth chief friends. 29, a violent man enticeth his neighbor, and leadeth him into the way that is not good. He shutteth his eyes to devise forward things. Moving his lips, he brings evil to pass, right? The hoary head is a crown of glory. Hoary, what is hoary? We talked about hoary the last time I was here. Look, The hoary head. You see that? Andrew. Where's Andrew? You see the look. There, right on time. Timing is perfect. The gray head, right? The gray hairs on your head, it's like a crown of glory. It is to be found in the way of righteousness. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty. And he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. The lot is cast into the lap, but the whole disposeth thereof is of the Lord. Selah and Selah. Amen. Peace, brethren, peace. This is supposed to be part number 2 of the kings, the rulers, and the leaders. And not every man is qualified to be king. Not every man should want to be king, actually. Because when an unqualified man becomes a king, they destroy everybody one way or another. Because of their arrogance, because of their greed, because of their anger that they have towards getting their lick back. People are so petty, man, with their intentions, right? An unqualified man is a detriment to everybody around him, especially if he is king, right? Because every day a man lives and he knows that he's unqualified, every day that they live in fear that they will be exposed, that they do not deserve their wealth, they don't deserve the opportunity to rule the people. And I believe it because I live it. But a man, he will reap what he sows. A man will always reap what he sows, right? So that's really the theme here. A man will reap what he sows. That's always been a theme. You see universal themes in the scriptures all the time. But let's recap a little bit from the last time we had this discussion about our kings, our rulers, and our leaders, right? So I spoke about the end of Solomon's reign. We talked about Rehoboam and Jeroboam, right? I talked about a few things, actually, even prior to me even getting to that story. One of the things I said, there's nothing that's new underneath the sun, and there's nothing that's old underneath the moon. And that's a fact, right? We spoke about politics, right? And what is politics? The application, the practice of trying to get power to govern a people, a place of land, a city, right? We talked about politics. It is not always about the money. It's never really about the money once you have a certain, especially when you're printing the money. It's never about the money, but it's always about the power. And it's so easy for power to corrupt. And I mentioned that. Lucifer being a great example of that. Being the right hand of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Couldn't even be trusted, right? But you read about him, and you read about how he was perfect. How all the best was given unto Lucifer. And then look the position that he is and how it is opposed to the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Right? So great power. So I always look at examples like this from my Heavenly Father and from heavenly things. Even the Christ said, how could I speak about heavenly things if you don't understand earthly things? And the things that are down here on earth are a microcosm of the things that happen up in heaven. So you see Lucifer being a prime example of you better humble yourself, because even Lucifer can be corrupted, right? You see the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob when we talked about how he wanted to kill off all of Israel and how Moses told him, how's it going to look? How's it going to look? You took them out of Egypt in order for you to kill them in the wilderness? And then it said the Lord went and humbled himself. These are all things that we can apply to ourselves. Humility, right? The Lord is not big enough to not humble his own self, right? Who are we to not humble ourselves? And so understanding these things, and when we're talking about power, right? And in Luke, it talked about, for unto whomsoever much is given, and I said this the last time, for unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required. And to whom men have committed much, of him they will ask the more. Right? So recapping again of Jeroboam and Rehoboam. So Solomon, he went in the end of his life, He sinned against the Lord, and he let the flesh get the better of him. And it kind of, even that story goes to show that Solomon lived his whole entire life, and he was good up until the end of his life. And then he got weak, right? And then there was consequences to that weakness, right? The throne was going to be taken away from him, taken away from his son. Right, so now there's these different things that are being put into play, right? In order for, because the Lord, and what's the only thing that's absolute in this world is the Lord. That's it. And when he said that the throne is going to be taken away from your seed, now you see the chain of events in order for that to happen, right? And even in Proverbs, when I read about evil and how everything is of the Lord, everything is being used by the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in order to create an outcome. You understand? Everybody is used. You know, they talk about Nebuchadnezzar and how he was used. All these different people that are not even of Israel and how they were used, right? Showing the strength and the reign, really the reign over our Heavenly Father and really his domain and how much he controls over everything that's going on, right? There are no coincidences in this life. So again, Rehoboam, right? He went and he conversed and it was his time to be king. And then people came to him, and what did they tell him? They asked him to lower the tax because it's grievous unto us. And what did he do? He went and got the advisement of his wise counsel. He talked to the old men. That's what he said. Talk to the old men. What the old men say? The old men say, serve the people, and the people will serve you. And then so, okay, he took that. And he went and he talked to his peers now. And they sitting down at the table. They eating lamb chops, talking. They probably had a cup of wine or two, so they're feeling real nice. You can even see how they were speaking. This is what you should say. You should say that my thumb is bigger than thy father's loins. You already know they probably was having a great time that night. Having a great time that night. And so, okay, now I'm going to take the advisement of the young men, and I'm going to go to the people. I said I'm going to talk to them after 3 days. I'm going to go to the people. And I'm going to tell them that you feel like the yoke around your neck is too tight now, or the whip on your back is going to be like scorpions, basically. He says, I'm going to up the ante. I'm going to up the ante with how I'm dealing with you, right? And you see, even with that, the influences of his peers. You know, they come from the tribe of Judah. You got to think of this like realistically. They come from the tribe of Judah. From generations to generations, Judah has always been, they're the guy. If I know that the king is coming from my camp, even if I'm not a king, I'm going to still carry myself a certain type of way, right? So you see the lobbyists, you see the people who they probably have they live in life a certain type of way, you understand? And so they're just like, the taxes don't affect them. You know, the taxes affecting everybody else. They're probably in a good position, right? So he said, okay, I'm going to up the tax. So he went and he sent his man to go collect the tax. And what did Israel go and do? This is the message that we sent him back to Rehoboam. We went and killed his man. Then that's when Jeroboam came, the deliverer. And this is the prophecy, right? This is the interesting part about it too. Because this is the prophecy, right? They're saying that Jeroboam is going to be king over 10 tribes, right? 10 tribes. That was a prophecy. That's it. It didn't say that, you know, and he's going to lead them to do this or that. But he said he's going to take up the 10 tribes, right? And Jeroboam was put in a position to have the influence of the people. He was put in a position to have an influence of the people, and the people, what did they do? They went and they rallied behind him, right? They believed in him. You'll be so surprised the power that it is. People want to believe in something so bad. The power of belief and faith. People understand that, and they manipulate people with that. You understand? And we're going to get into it. But you see, the people rallied behind him. And then what happened? They all went and they stood behind Jeroboam, and he had them. But they weren't in Jerusalem, though. And what happens with the altar? The altar, there's only one altar. And during the statutes, you have Passover, you have these holy times, and you always go back. That's the culture, right? And you see the culture, you always go back to the altar. And now Jeroboam is thinking like, oh, they're going to have to, and that area is still ruled by Rehoboam, right? And he's the heir of, he's Solomon's son. You understand? Like you got to understand the culture. And he's thinking to himself, Okay, the people their heart is gonna go back to Jerusalem. How do I keep the heart of the people? Because that's where the power is. The power is with the people. It's always with the people, right? That's why they want to get the hearts of the people. That's why propaganda is such a problem. It's such a powerful tool because sometimes even on Instagram, you'll see somebody get accused of something, guilty or not. They get accused of something. If the public opinion is that he's guilty, even if he goes to court and he's innocent, and they say, okay, he's innocent. If the public opinion says that he's guilty, then he might as well be guilty, right? That's the power of the public, right? That's the power of the people. And to be able to control that and to direct that, that's where the power lies. And people peep that. People understand that. And you see how people manipulate these things, right? So the prophecy again, he was supposed to have the 10 tribes. He went and chose, because of his own intentions, because of his own aspirations, to lead the people to worship the calf again. Of all the things, the calf. I don't know what it is about Israel and the calf. I don't know what it is about Israel and the golden calf. But we'll get into it. But you see that, right? And you see a lot in the scriptures, a lot of these universal themes that are within the scriptures. When I was putting this together, I mentioned a few of them too. A man will reap what he sows. You see, that's a theme. You will reap what you sow, right? You see, another theme. What is another theme? There's nothing new under the sun or the moon. That's another theme. You see that, right? You see also another theme that's very prominent, the recycling of the spirit, right? You see that recycling of the spirit over and over and over and over again. And then putting this together, right? And just trying to figure out, because we had a lot of kings. Our history is rich. You understand? Our history is rich. And then putting this together, you see, I'm looking and I'm seeing this cycle of disobedience and judgment, and then there's deliverance, and then there's redemption, and then it starts back again. And then deliverance, disobedience, judgment, and then deliverance, and then they start back again, and it's this continuous cycle, right? And it's just like, it got me thinking about the story about the prodigal son and how the relationship between a father and his son, right? The prodigal son, the relationship between a father and his son, Israel being the son. And even if you look historically and you look at the culture, right, from Abraham all the way up until Israel, all the way up until Moses, you see the development of that culture, right? You see it's like a father teaching his child certain things. You see the culture with Noah, and you see the culture and how he took Abraham out, and he's developing the culture now. He's separated the people. Now I'm building a culture with these people, right? And you see, like a father giving game to his kid. He has give him a little bit there. Then certain milestones happen in your life. And then, he gives him a little bit more game. And now we're at the time of Israel. We're at a certain age. And we get the time of Egypt, And we come out of Egypt. And we cross the Red Sea. And now we're at a certain age now. Now we're at a certain age. Now the laws, the statutes, and the commandments being given unto the people, you see. And it's like a child, right? He's giving him game. This is life, right? Life has a set of rules. And this, son, if you want to succeed, this is what you need to do in order for you to succeed. I'm separating you. You got to think of it like that. You got to make it real personal. So he's giving him the game. And then as a kid, you think about the rebellious stage of a child and how he always wants to do his own thing. And he wants to chill out with his friends. You see that constantly, And you see how it parallels what happens on earth, and it's the same thing that parallels what happens in the heavens. Now you see that. And he gets to a certain age. And the prodigal son, it made me think of the prodigal son because that's the story of the prodigal son. You have the two sons. You had a younger son, ironically. The younger son, even in Israel's history, the youngest always is, the spirit is not always with the eldest son, right? You see with Abraham, well, not with Abraham, with Isaac, you see with Isaac. You see it with Jacob, right? And how they were the younger, right? But the spirit wasn't with the elder spirit anyway. That inheritance went with the youngest child. So it's just in the prodigal son, even in that story, you had the elder brother and you had the younger brother. And it's the younger brother, right? It's hard to, he wants his inheritance. He wants his inheritance now so he can go off and do his own thing. He takes his inheritance and he's out and he's squandering. He's probably in the big city, squandering everything, right? He don't know what life is like. He's living good. If he has an estate and an inheritance, he's living very well. He's a privileged child. So you see, this is a book about a spoiled child. When you read about the Bible, this is a book about spoiled children, right? And you see, he leaves his city, he leaves his father's house, and he squanders his money. And he's in the pig pen, and he's feeding the pigs, and he's thinking, dang, man, if I could just go back to my father's house, if I could be a servant in my father's house, right? The humility, right? And then he's going back to his father's house, and you see him coming and bowing his head, and his father taking him, and you see the redemption there. And that's the same cycle that continues on over and over with the children of Israel and the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it made me think about that story. Do you know how many times Israel was actually enslaved? Enslavement in our history is just like, it didn't just happen with America, right? It didn't just happen before then with the what is it called? The Ottoman Empire. It didn't just happen with them either. You know, our history with enslavement was just over and over and over and over. You know how many times we've been enslaved? Let's run it through. We'll be quick, and you'll see even when I'm running it through just like this, you'll see the themes that are here, right? So we got out of Egypt. Red Sea parted. Moses had the commandments, the laws, the statutes. We get to Joshua. Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, right? You had the people, right? And you had the judges, right? Now, we're at this period now with the Babylonians. So this is where it starts off, right? The Babylonians of Mesopotamia. You'll read, starting in Judges, right? So this is after Joshua's death. So after Joshua's death, you have the king of Mesopotamia. He came and he went and subjugated Israel for 8 years, right? Then you have Othniel, which is Caleb's nephew. He went and he led Israel out of captivity, and they were in peace for 40 years, right? Then fast forward again. Now this is after Othniel's death, right? Othniel, that's his name. Othniel, this is Caleb's nephew, right? This is after his death. Now, of course, I should preface this by saying this. The start or the cause of all this affliction, right? The oppression is always the same thing, right? What is that? It's disobedience, but it's the idolatry. They love it so much. They love the idolatry and the worship of everything but the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I don't know what it is, but you see, but after our leaders died, you'll see, after Joshua's death, that's when the king of Mesopotamia came, subjugated Israel for 8 years, right? Then Caleb's nephew came, and he delivered them. Then we had 40 years of peace. Peep the numbers, though, the symbolism here. You understand? Now Caleb's nephew went and died, right? And then Israel went and did what? What do you think? They returned back to the idolatry, provoking judgment again. Then the king of Moab came. So the Moabites came, and they enslaved Egypt for 18 years. The Moabites occupied central of Israel, exploiting a lot of them, humiliating a lot of them. Then you have Ehud. He came, he assassinated the king of the Moabites, and we had peace for 80 years, right? Fast forward again, the Canaanites went and enslaved us for 20 years. And this is after, guess whose death? This is after Ehud's death, right? Israel fell into idolatry again, leading to 20 years of oppression under the king of Canaan and his general Sisera, right? Now you see the Canaanites. You hear about the story. I don't know those who know the story about the Canaanites, how they advanced with the iron chariots. And then you have the rise of one of our prophetesses, Deborah, and Barak, her military leader. They delivered Israel. Then you have Jael. She went and killed the general, right? Put a stake in his head while he was asleep. Then Israel, we went and had peace for 40 years. And then again, fast forward again, the Midianites, they went with the Amalekites, and they raided Israel for 7 years. And they devastated their economy. And they forced Israel to go and hide, right? And this is when God goes and rises up Gideon. He rises up Gideon. And we're going to get into the story of Gideon because I want to get into, a little bit of the story. But, that led to 40 years of peace with Gideon, right? Then you fast forward again, the Philistines and the Ammonites, right? They went and they dominated the east for 18 years again. Then you have Jephthah. He came and he led Israel to victory against the Ammonites. Fast forward again. This seems like this will go on forever. You have the Philistines. The Philistines, they went and enslaved the Israelites for 40 years. And then you have the story of Samson that came up after that, right? Fast forward again. You have the Babylonians. This is the famous one. For 70 years, Judah was exiled. And this is the conquer by Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. Then you have the Assyrians after that. And you see the cycle that keeps on. Again, the theme is that spirit continuing to recycle itself within the children of Israel. And it's a crazy thing. But you see how the motivations of individuals and how everybody's fleshly desires are used against them. So let's go ahead. Let's get into Judges. I think I have enough time for this. Whenever I'm reading the scriptures, it's always about context with me. I don't really want to get into Gideon. I do want to get into Gideon, but I want to get into Gideon's son, right? Abimelech. But before I get into Abimelech, I want you to understand, prior to what happened. Because I literally just went down from Egypt, how we were enslaved by all these different type of people, right? Up until the Assyrians. So let's go into the story of Gideon. So we'll go into Judges chapter 6. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. That's how it always has to start before we get into these stories. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. So remember I said 7 years they were enslaved, right? And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel. And because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them dens which were in the mountains and caves and strongholds, right? They were like Neanderthals, right? You could probably even think about how their culture, how they even changed in their appearance, right? Just living up in the mountains, right? And strongholds. Verse 3, and so it was when Israel had sown, the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites and the children of the east, even they came up against them, right? Military campaigns. Everybody came together. You got to think even too, Israel already has a reputation already, right? So people who come and enslave Israel, they're good. They normally, they come with a campaign of people, right? Because everybody knows about us in Israel, right? So when you come, they do come correct. Verse 4, and they encamped against them and destroyed the increase of the earth till thou came into Gaza and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep nor ox nor ass. For they came up with their cattle in their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for multitude, right? Think about like a field of grasshoppers. Like you can't even number that. They came as grasshoppers for multitude, for both they and their camels were without number. And they entered into the land to destroy it. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. Right? You see the economical influence, right? Gravely impoverished because of the Midianites. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. And it came to pass when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites. Now you hear the children of Israel crying unto the Lord. This is a common theme again. Verse 10, and I said unto you, I am the Lord your God. Fear not the God of the Amorites. Fear not those gods in whose land ye dwell. And ye have not obeyed my voice. Verse 11, and there came an angel of the Lord, and he sat under an oak, which was in Ophrah, and pertained unto Joash, the Abiezrite. I like Abiezrite. That sounds right. Abiezrite. And his son, Gideon, threshed wheat. So remember, they're highly impoverished because of the Midianites, right? So Gideon, he's in the slums right now. He's in the hood right now. And son Gideon threshed wheat by the vine press to hide it from the Midianites, right? You can imagine how they living. right? He's coming for the wine press. This is all things that everybody's got to figure out some way to eat. Verse 12, and the angel of the Lord appeared unto him and said unto him, the Lord is with thee, thy mighty man of valor. And Gideon said unto him, O my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then is all this befalling us? And where be all the miracles which our fathers told us? All the miracles, so the stories being told, going down from generation to generation. This is, again, a common theme here again. You hear about the slaves that were on the transatlantic slave trade. They came, before they knew how to read, they were singing about Joshua fought the battle of Jericho. They were singing about Moses and how he delivered them, before they could even read that Bible that was transcribed by the King James Version, right? So all these stories being passed down generation to generation. Where am I? 14. And the Lord looked upon him and said, go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hands of the Midianites. Have not I sent thee? And he said unto him, O my Lord. The God of Israel really just wants us to believe in him just like off the strength. Like, it's always like that. It's just like, what is wrong with you? Like, I am who I am. That's always his response. Have I not sent thee? And he said unto him, but look, he has to test him. He said unto them, O my God, wherewith shall I save Israel? Doubting himself. Behold, my father is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least of my father's house. I'm not even the strongest. I'm not even the best. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even the eldest child. I'm the least in my father's house. And the Lord said unto him, surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man. As one man. Now, let's look at the characteristics of these men that are used. This guy sounds a lot like who to you? Gideon. What does he sound like right now? He's doubting himself. It's a popular story. Who does he sound like? He sounds like Moses, right? And Moses, you see the characteristics that the God of Israel gravitates towards, right? The people that he chooses to deliver his people, his son, right? Like his son. You got to think about who would you want even to deal with your children, right? Or even to watch your children. That's something that you keen to. You understand? Where am I, 16? Right, he's saying he's the least out of his father's house, right? But he's the least of his father's house. Again, staying in that same vein of the least. You see, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, how they were not the firstborn. Isaac and Jacob not being the firstborn. 16, and the Lord said unto him, surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man. 17, and he said unto him, if now I have found grace in thy sight, then show me a sign that thou talkest with me. He's talking with an angel right now. He's like, show me a sign. Show me something. Let me see something. Do a trick. Depart not hence, I pray thee. This is 18. Until I come unto thee and bring forth my present and set it before thee. So he's going to go and he's going to bring, I'm going to come back. Don't go nowhere. I'll bring something for you. You understand? If you're really who you say you are. And he said, I will tarry until thou come again. I'll wait here until you come back. 19, and Gideon went in and made ready a kid and unleavened cakes of an ephah of flour. And flesh he put in a basket. And he put the broth in a pot. And he brought it, and he put it underneath the oak. And he presented it. And the angel of God said unto him, take the flesh and the unleavened cakes, go ahead and lay it upon the rock there. Pour the broth, and he did so. And then the angel of the Lord put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand and touched the flesh of the unleavened cakes. And there rose up a fire out of the rock and consumed the flesh and the unleavened cakes. And the angel of the Lord departed out of his sight. Right? There you go. You see that fire come out of the rock? Fires don't come out of rocks. All right? How you like that? Boo! And I disappear. Bang! You know what I'm saying? Oh, whoa! Oh, wow! I'm sure I was like, wow! Okay, God, bet you. You think that would be it, right? You think he'll be like, okay, bet. That's something you don't see that every day. You understand? Where am I? And when Gideon perceived that he was an angel of the Lord, Gideon said, alas, O Lord God, for because I have seen an angel of the Lord face to face. And the Lord said unto him, peace be unto thee. Fear not, thou shalt not die. Then Gideon built an altar there unto the Lord and called it Jehovah Shalom until this day. And it is yet in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. And it came to pass in the same night that the Lord said unto him, take thy father's young bullock, and even the second bullock of 7 years, and throw down the altar of Baal that thy father hath. Right? So this is the mission. This is his first mission. Right? This is what I want you to do. Go in your father's house. He has the altar of Baal in there. Go in there, throw down the altar of Baal, right? And cut down the grove that is by it. And build an altar unto the Lord thy God upon the top of this rock in the ordered place, and take the second bullock and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove that thou shalt cut down. His very first mission. 27. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants, and did as the Lord had said unto him. And so it was, because he feared his father, his father's household, very much so, I can imagine, right? Them days, you think, I think about my childhood, how I was growing up, and I think about my mother's childhood and how she grew up. It's like, damn, it seems like getting worse and worse. I can imagine how he was probably, I can imagine his lifestyle, how he was living. And Gideon took 10 men, and he went to his father's, for he feared his father's household. And the men of the city that he came not do it by day, and he did it by night. So I'm not going to do it by day. I'm going to go ahead and do it by night. My father's asleep. You understand? We're going to go ahead and sneak in there, in and out. He's not even going to know it's us, right? That's what he's thinking. And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal were cast down, and the grove was cut down, and that was by it. And the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built, right? You're like, what the heck is going on here? You see, our altar of Baal is cut down. You see this new altar, and the bullock is offered up there. What's that? Okay. And they said unto one another, who have done this thing? And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon! They said, Gideon, the son of Joash, have done this thing. How they know that? He came at night. How they know why? Somebody snitching. Gideon, he said, Gideon came at night. 30. Then the men of the city said unto Joash, bring out thy son, that he may die. Not even die, we're going to punish him. Bring him out so he could die, bro. Bring him out so that he may die. Because he hath cast down the altar of Baal, and because he hath cast down the grove that was by it. So they're willing to kill their own flesh and blood, right, over this God. That's not even theirs. I don't know what it is, the attraction with these gods that they have in Israel, and especially Baal. Baal is always, I don't know what it is. 31. And Joash said unto all that stood against him, will ye plead for Baal? Will ye save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death. Whilst it is yet morning. If he be God, let him pledge for himself, because one hath cast down his altar. Right? So in the test. Therefore, on the day he called him Jerubbaal. Right? So now this is good. So now we know, reading about Gideon, now they called him Jerubbaal there, saying, let Baal plead against him, because he hath thrown down his altar. Then all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east were gathered together, and they went over and pitched in the valley of Jezreel, right? They plotting. What they doing down there? But the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, and Abiezer was gathered after him. And he sent messengers throughout all of Manasseh, who else have gathered after him. And he sent messengers to Asher and to Zebulun and unto Naphtali, and they came up to meet with them. And Gideon said unto God, if thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said, behold, this is another test. So he still don't believe. So you can see his character. He's so scary, man. He's like, okay, if you really gonna be with us, let me just have one more test. Just one more test. He said, behold, 37, I will put a fleece of wool on the floor, and if the dew, the dew in the morning, and if the dew be on the fleece only. Normally the dew is all over the field, on the grass. But if it's only on the fleece only, and it be dry upon all the earth beside, then shall I know thou shalt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said. Just show me that. I need that. It's about the morale. I need the morale, please. Just let me know. So 38, and it was so. For he rose up early in the morning, and thus the fleece together, and wringed in the dew out of the fleece a bowl full of water. That's how much dew was in it. He had a bowl full of water. And what did Gideon do? You think he's done? You think he's done testing God? 39, and Gideon said unto God, let not thine anger be hot against me. Please don't be mad with me, okay? I know you just did that. And I will speak, but this once. Let me prove, I pray thee, but this once with the fleece. Let it not be dry until only upon the fleece, and upon all the ground let there be dew. So he said, just do the opposite now, right? Now, okay, I'm gonna do it again. Now let it be dry, and then the dew is all around the fleece. Just show me that one, and we're Gucci. Like, I'm down with it, 100%, ride or die, I'm with you. 40, and God did so that night, for it was dry upon the fleece only, and there was dew on all the ground. So you see, right? So you see how it's just like, you see his humble beginnings. And those of you who know the story of Gideon, you just like know how he came up. Like, look at the humble beginnings of Gideon. Gideon was just he was a kid. He was the lowliest in his family. He's out here stealing wheat from the yard because the Midianites, he's poor. He's living in the city. He can't even get it. You understand? He doesn't even believe in himself. He went and tried God like 3 times. The angel was there, and he prepared the offering. The offering went up in fire. He's like, all right, I need something else. I went and gathered the people. Everything's together. The plan is set already. Like, you're going to do it, but you're going to tell them to go home? The plan is set already. You got the 10 men. Everybody's ready to go, man. It's just you. He's like, okay, let me put the fleece down. Just show me you're going to be with us. Even though he told him in the beginning, Gideon, you will not die, right? So, peep, this is the characteristics. This is the characteristics of a man of valor, right? Because it talked about the Lord be with thee, O man of valor. And it was talking to Gideon, right? So you have Gideon and his victory. Should I read? Let's read Judges 7 as well. Let's read a little bit of that. Let's get into the story a little bit. Then Jeroboam, who was Gideon, and all the people that were with him rose up early and pitched beside the well of Horeb. So the hosts of the Midianites were on the north side of them, but the hill of Moab in the valley. So went and positioned themselves. And the Lord said unto Gideon, the people that were with thee, there's too many people that's with you, right? And you see this is another common theme. The God of Israel using the very least to do the very most, right? The very least to do the most, right? So he's telling him there's too much men that's with you, right? The people that are waiting are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands. It's too many of you for me to give them into your hands, lest Israel vault themselves against me, saying, mine own hand hath saved me, right? It cannot be without a doubt. That's why even me personally, in life, when you pray for strength, right? The God of Israel, he's gonna put you in a position that's gonna strengthen you, right? And you pray for humility, he's gonna put you in a position that's going to humble you, right? And even your relationship with God, if you want to build that relationship with God, a lot of the times it's like you lose a lot building that relationship with God. And it's just like you have no other options but to get closer to God. So it's like, okay, I need the very least to do the very most. And he's telling him, there's too many people that's with you. Where am I? Verse 3. Now, therefore, go to proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there returned of the people 22,000. So 20,000. And there remained 10,000. So they had 30,000 in the beginning. And then he went and told them, okay, if anybody's afraid, you can go home. 20,000. And it probably started off with a few guys, and then he's just like, oh, if Harold's leaving, I'm gone, man. I can't stay. If Harold ain't me, that's my main man. If I'm going to die, I want to die with my man. You understand? Everybody started leaving. 20,000, and 10,000 remained. Verse 4, and the Lord said to Gideon, the people are yet too many. It's still too many 10,000 is still, you could play that off as, man, we did our thing, man. We barely made it. 10,000? Bring them down into the water, and I will try thee for 3 there. And it shall be that of whom I will say unto thee, this shall go with thee. The same shall go with thee, and of whomsoever I say unto thee, this shall not go unto thee, the same shall not go. For he brought down the people unto the water, and the Lord said unto Gideon, everyone that lappeth of the water with his tongue like a dog, as a dog lappeth, him shalt thou set by himself. Likewise, everyone that boweth down upon his knee to drink, And the number of them that lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, were 300 men. And the rest of them, right, there's 10,000 of them, 300 men, right? And the rest of the people bowed down upon their knees to drink the water. This is the separation. And the Lord said unto Gideon, by the 300 men that lappeth will I save you and deliver you from the Midianites unto thine hand. And let all the other people go every man unto his place. Send everybody else home, right? I'm only going to do it with the 300. So now, this is an interesting part of the story, too, because you see motivations of people, right? Because this comes back again. Oh, my God. So let me fast forward in the story. So Gideon, basically, at the end of his campaign, he used the 300 men, and he was victorious in the end, right? Talked about his strategy. He basically gave everybody a trumpet, him and the 300 men. They all went in, and they confused the Midianite camp. They created an illusion for a large army, and they went and they did their thing, and it was, again, this is the Lord doing the most with the least, right? Really proving that, okay, this is really, the Lord really was with us, even for Gideon as well, right? So this is Gideon, right? This is the characteristics of one of our rulers that delivered us out of captivity, right? Similar to Moses, you see the humility, right? You see how he understands that everything that is done is not done by his hand. He understands that everything that is done by the hand of the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, right? So fast forward now. We get Gideon, and then we have the irony, which is his son, one of his sons anyway. So we're gonna get into Abimelech, which is who I really wanted to get into. I just really wanted to get context for Gideon. I didn't want to really get into Gideon. But just context as far as his father, right? And so now moving forward, we used to go to Judges chapter 9. So now this is the story I wanted to get into. So now Abimelech, the son of Jerubbaal, so remember Jerubbaal is Gideon, so he's the son of Jerubbaal, he went to Shechem unto his mother's brethren. So his mother was a Canaanite, right? So he went unto his mother's brethren, so his mother's father's house. So not of his own father's house, because now there is no king, there's just judges. Gideon, they said they wanted Gideon to be king after the victory, and Gideon was like, no, I don't want to be king. The power was distributed amongst the judges, right? So you have Abimelech, and he's the son of Gideon. I'm sure he feels like he's entitled, right? And so he goes to his mother's brethren and communed with them and with all the family of the house of his mother's family. Verse 2, speak, I pray you, in the ears of all the men of Shechem, whether it better for you, either that all the sons of Jerubbaal, which are 70 persons, right? So 70 people, right, that he had judging them. And he's saying, whether it be better for you, right? And this is not Israel, right? So this is like propaganda. These are like tools. You can see how this is used in the same way for today. You see how nationalism and tribalism is used in groups of people to influence them to do certain things, right? So you see he's coming, he's starting his campaign, so he needs power, right? He needs manpower. He's going to his family's house, his father's house, his mother's father's house, right? He's telling them, wouldn't it be better for you either that all the sons of Jerubbaal, which are 70 persons, reign over you, or that one reign over you, or that one reign over you. So which one would you rather have? Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh, right? Letting him know, like, I am family, right? Using that manipulation tactic. Verse 3, and his mother's brethren spake of him in the ears of all of the men of Shechem, all these words. And their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech. For they said, here is your brother. And they gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Baal-Berish. So you see, even economically, using for his campaign, he needs money for the campaign. So he's going back. I'm sure he was raised a certain type of way, but he's going back. So in order, to get finance for this campaign, in order for him to take back the throne, right? So they went and gave him money out of that church, right? Out of that shrine. 70 pieces of silver, and they gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Baal-Berish, wherewith Abimelech hired vain and light persons, which followed him, right? Birds of a feather flock together. And he went unto his father's house at Ophrah, and slew his brethren, the sons of Jerubbaal, being 70 persons. So he killed all 70 of his brothers, right? Upon one stone. Notwithstanding, yet Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, so the youngest brother, when an escape was left, for he hid himself. You understand? And this plays a pivotal part. And all the men of Shechem gathered together all the house of Milo, and went and made Abimelech king by the plain of the pillar that was in Shechem. So you see, all the people, now they came together and they made him king, right? So let's run through the story again. So you have the son of Gideon, right? He was born of a concubine in Shechem, right? A city in the tribe of Ephraim's territory. A lot of the context, too, is the who, what, where, why, when, and how, all that. So let's look at the where and why. So you have it, they're in Shechem, right? Located in the central of Canaan. It was a key trading hub for these guys. So you see economically how this is an important place for him to put up his camp, right? It's a mixed multitude between the Israelites and the Canaanites. That's another important aspect, too. You see the divide religiously and spiritually and culturally, right? And this is all after Gideon's death, right? A period of instability, right? It's always these periods where Israel finds themselves folding into that same spirit of disobedience, right? That same spirit of disobedience seems to be, it's always active, right? It's always an active thing, to say the spirit quickens the flesh, like this thing that continuously quickens the flesh. It's a continual force, right? And then when there's a chip in the armor, that's where you see where that influence happens, right? And it's always, you see it after Gideon's death, you see the instability there. And Abimelech went and capitalized off of that, right? So now, moving forward, you see, even with Rehoboam and Jeroboam and the prophecy that was there, and how, the culture of Israel is such a beautiful culture. The history of Israel is such a beautiful history, right? You think about the father and his son. And what does it mean to be a son of your father, like coming from your father's loins, and how you are an extension of your father, right? And you see, when we're talking about kings, and we're talking about rulers, we're talking about leaders, really and truly, the only king, and the only ruler, and the only leader that we have is the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. But as always, we want to put our strength in men. We want to put our strength in ourselves. We want to put our strength in all these earthly things to get earthly benefits, right? But if you want a spiritual benefit, you got to sow into spiritual things. It says that in Galatians when it talks about if you sow into the flesh, you're going to reap corruption. But if you sow into the Spirit, you're going to reap everlasting life. And like in the beginning, like I said, a man will always reap what he sows, right? And there's so much game to be learned when you're reading about the scriptures. And when you read about the kings, our kings and their ambitions, you see Abimelech and his ambitions and what that led him to do and how that led him to, he eventually became king and he ruled for 3 years. But then if you read on in the story, you see how he dies. You see how he dies. He went because he heard, right? Because after a while, he used his family's house, his father's house, or his mother's father's house, to take over Israel, to oppress Israel. You're going to reap what you sow. Those same people that was used to help you, they went and conspired against him now. They went and conspired against him, and it was just like, why are we following this guy? He's not even one of us for real. You understand? He a half-breed. He's not even one of us for real. And they went and conspired against him now. And then he went and heard this. He was like, oh, I'm not having that. And now he went and got his people, and he went and just started burning down everything. And then they went and fled. They fled at this high tower. And you see, Gideon comes, he's burning down everything. He's like, listen, man, do as I do. He told the men, do as I do. And he went and took up a bunch of wood. Everybody went and took up a bunch of wood, put it up in the tower, light it up on fire. He was literally burning everything. And then somebody in the tower went, just threw a rock down, a lady down. He started to bleed out. Oh, man. Oh, nah. Who went through that? He went to see a little girl went and threw the rock. Oh, no, that's dishonorable. I can't have that. See his pride, how it played? You can tell he's a prideful person. He told one of his people, listen, you kill me, because I don't want people to think I got killed by a girl. You understand? Like, you see the levels, like, someone told me this a while ago, that your higher desires have to rule over your lesser ones, right? And you think about, what are your higher desires? Like, what are the higher qualities of a man that makes him a man of valor? What was it that made Gideon a man of valor? Right? What qualities made him a man of valor? You see the humility, right? You see he's of service to the people, right? Similar to what the old man had told Rehoboam, to be a servant of the people and the people will serve you, right? Because you reap what you sow. You see the cycle is there. You understand? So you got to be mindful of what you put into that cycle, right? Because it will be coming back to you. So you're going to reap what you sow. So all these different characteristics, your higher desires, humility, being of service to the people, right? Being righteous, understanding where your power comes from. And that has to rule over your lesser ones. Your pride, your lowly ambitions, right? You got to think, like, you're in this life for a short time, not a long time. You understand? And then that same spirit that's within you, that's quickening you, is going to be quickening another piece of flesh. And you got to think, what am I training? What am I really sowing into, right? When you think about the leaders that are in Israel, it's just like they were sowing into those lower desires. So the theme, understanding that recycling of that same spirit and of the process, and to be able to respect the process is an important thing. And so, as Israel, you have to respect that process. We have to respect the process, because a man, he will reap what he sows. And with that, I give you peace.
Peace. Hello, hope you're enjoying the program so far. We're excited you've joined us for today's event. If this is your first time, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to click the notification bell to be kept up to date with all the latest news. Also, take a second to like, comment, and share our videos. That's right, like, comment, and share our videos. We would really appreciate that. Also, we are really passionate about sharing our Israelite culture and would welcome your generosity in helping us to reach more people. So please feel free to leave us a donation. If you would like to learn more or are thinking about joining us, then please go ahead and fill out the form in the description box below, and a member of the Welcome Committee will be in contact. Thank you so much for your time, and I leave you with peace, love, truth, prosperity, and power.
Peace and welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. I am Elder Freddie. Before I begin, let me go into a psalm. Not sure which one yet, but let me go here. Is it? Not unto us, O Lord, not unto us, but unto thy name give glory for thy mercy and for thy truth's sake. Wherefore should the heathens say, where is now their God? But our God is in the heavens. He has done whatsoever he hath pleased. Their idols are silver and gold, the works of man's hands. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Noses have they, but they smell not. They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they through their throat. They that make them are like unto them. So is every one that trusteth in them. O Israel, trust thou in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. O house of Aaron, trust in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. Ye that fear the Lord, trust in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. The Lord hath been mindful of us. He will bless us. He will bless the house of Israel. He will bless the house of Aaron. He will bless them that fear the Lord, both small and great. The Lord shall increase you more and more, you and your children. You are blessed of the Lord, which made heaven and earth. The heaven, even the heavens, are the Lord's, but the earth hath he given unto the children of men. The dead praise not the Lord, neither any that go down into silence. But we will bless the Lord from this time forth and even forevermore. Praise ye the Lord. Salah and Salah. Again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. We are in part 2 of our topic of kings, rulers, and leaders. My nephew Christopher, as always, he does an amazing, wonderful job in bringing forth the scriptures and bringing life to these words. I do have to let you know that beforehand, we don't discuss. I try not to, and it never fails. He's in the book of Judges. Like, we didn't discuss, I didn't know he was going to speak in regards to Gideon or even in the book of Judges. So I decided to go someplace else. So we are live, as I normally do say. And when we're live, sometimes you got to improvise. So I'm going to do some improvising just to make sure that we are all always bringing information to you that is extremely important. And there is a particular scripture that I need to touch on, and that's because when we had been here the last time, a few things came up. And one of the things that came up when I was speaking the last time was in regards to, if you can recall, if not, maybe a quick rewind on the past videos that we did. And I had mentioned in terms of when we pass on and when we go over to the other side, that it's very important that according to what our forefather Abraham did, is that he sought out a burial place. And what had happened is, after that, I had spoken to one of our guests that was here, and he mentioned something to me, which I thought was interesting. And he said that, First, he thought I was from Barbados. And I said, no, I wasn't from Barbados, but one of our brethren from Barbados. And I did mention as well, too, that it was a Caribbean thing that I really wanted to stress about the closeness that we have in our culture. And he mentioned something to me that in Jamaica, what his grandparents had done or was done to his grandparents, and that was that some of us are familiar with this. Maybe some of us are not, especially out in the country. And I think the reason that he kind of gave was that economics played a role in this. I'm not sure how well this works. But sometimes when the people pass on, according to him, but I know a little bit different, because there's not much no place to really bury or to get the burial plot or whatever it is. So sometimes up in the country, they'll decide to bury the ones that have passed on in the front of the house. Like, I don't know if this is throughout the Caribbean islands, but I know I could speak in regards to Jamaica. Not Barbados, not Trinidad. So this might be uniquely a Jamaican thing, because when you said yes, it was very confident. No, but some people do. Why not in the back? Can anybody answer? Okay.
Hello, Freddie. It really in Jamaica, it depends on where the house is on the land.
Okay.
So it could be at the side, it could be at the back, it could be at the front. It just depends on where the house is on the land. So if the house is further to the back of the land,
Okay.
then you'll bury at the front.
Okay.
If the house is to the front of the land, and there's space at the side, we bury at the side or at the back. So it all depends on, as I said, where the house is located.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, in my experience, the two times that I've seen it, it was in the front of the house. It was in the front. The only reason why I even bring this up is because scripturally, when our forefather Abraham sought out a burial place, he said that I may bury my dead out of my sight, which is the important thing. Bury my dead out of my sight so I don't see them. So whether they have it in the front of the house or in the back of the house or off to the side of the house or maybe to the easternly directionally side of the house, it's supposed to be out of my sight. As far as I know, the place of burial for the Israelite nation worldwide ministries is really out of our sight. It's so far out of our sight that some of us don't even know where it is, which is a good thing. We don't believe in funerals. We don't keep funerals. We try to bury according to our scriptures as quickly as possible. And so to clarify and to get all these things just so that we can have a real solid understanding, because all that we teach here at the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries specifically is culture, is very much our culture. Yes, Sophie, Elder Sophie.
This question is from Carol. So, not knowing.
Wait a minute.
I know.
Is Carol gonna? Is she gonna? Let me see if I can. I got to check to see if she's in. Go ahead. I want to see if she's in the chat.
So, before you're Israelite, they're buried, let's say, in the yard, front or back or side. Now that you're an Israelite, what do you do with the dead that's already buried there? And it's your home. What do you do? If you dig them up, isn't that still an unclean ground? What is it? How does that go? I thought it was a good question.
Sorry, say once again.
So if before you were Israel, you have them buried, could be front, could be side, could be back, but it's in the yard.
Okay.
But now you're an Israelite, and that is your home, and they are buried there. What do you do? Do you dig them up? Is it still unclean even if you dig them up? Like, what do you do?
Well, let me try and get the scenario. So, obviously, this is not going to be here in Canada or anywhere in North America. Unless you're Donald Trump, who can bury somebody on your golf course somewhere. None of us have a golf course. We don't have a plot of land like that. So we're talking about when you go back home to visit. When you go back home to visit your parents or your relatives, and they have the dead buried there on the property. Well, the one thing you have to know is that, yes, we do acknowledge that the dead are unclean. That's why we have laws, statutes, and commandments. And these laws, statutes, and commandments actually make up our culture. It becomes who we are. So our Father, our God, is the type of God that works in a way that He will leave no stone unturned. So regardless of what situation you find yourself in, He already thought of that question. And our God is so caring and so loving that He gave us those instructions. And what you would face, just imagine the way He works, that all these thousands of years ago, He thought that on November 29th, today's the 29th? 30th. The 30th? More likely than not, I'm going to have one of my servants by the name of Carol. She's going to wonder about what she should do as an Israelite in 2024 if the dead is buried on the property that she's going on. He thought of that, believe it or not, all those thousands of years ago. That's why he made sure that He told His servant Moses about the importance of water and separation. So in a situation like that, you're going into a place, it's much like going into a cemetery or a place that you would know that would be unclean. Once you as an Israelite enter the premise where the dead are buried within the gates, within the parameters, you know that automatically you are unclean for how many days? For 7 days, you're unclean. So after that, so what you do is once you leave that situation, the next thing is, what do you have to do? You have to bathe, you have to shower, you have to clean, even the shoes. Even the shoes, before you enter into your home, like you clean the shoes, wash with water. And you are unclean from that time for 7 days. You will not come to the place of worship. You don't want to be around your brethren. You don't want to mix and mingle. And especially during holy days, you don't want to do any of that. So you're unclean for 7 days. That's in a nutshell. And then what has to happen after that is we have a process. Right, guys? So this is our culture. As a matter of fact, even if you become unclean in that situation and you are about to have Passover for you is in the 2nd month, according to the commandments, according to the instructions that we were given to us by the hand of Moses. Yes.
If it's her piece of land, though,
you can visit your piece of land at any time you want, but you just have to know that anytime you visit, you're unclean for 7 days.
No, but what if you're living there?
If you're living there, I would hope, and if you're living there in a situation like that, then so let's think. If I'm living in a place that is consistently unclean. Sorry? Number one, let's not get too far away. Remember what we said. The situation and the scenario is this is not here. Number one, it's not here. Number two, we did agree that this is somewhere back home in the Caribbean somewhere. So you're visiting. So don't everybody out, you guys like to switch up the scenarios. Let's not leave the scenario that we are in. But if you as an Israelite live on the premises of a place like that, what would you be considered? Right, so this is not her situation. That's not your, we hope that's not your situation. We hope that's not your situation, Carol, but we do but as you can see, it's here. But what we have to remember is what we do is that everything we do is here in the book. What we do here is part of our culture, because there's sometimes you're going to see things and experience things that you might not see. So the question to ask is it against the laws, the statutes, and the commandments of the God of Israel? That's what you have to ask. Because, for example, people would say that I took a Nazirite vow. I've heard people say that. I took a Nazirite vow, the vow of the Nazirite. So in keeping the vow of the Nazirite, which is in Numbers, when you see the type of situation you have to be in, or the environment that you have to be in, you can't basically leave the residence as to where you are if you've taken the vow of a Nazirite. Because with the vow of a Nazirite, you come in contact with someone that has been in contact with the dead, then your vow is over. You got to go and shave your hair and start all over again. So it's very difficult to perform the vow of a Nazirite in this day and age if you want to walk up and down and be amongst everyone. Very, very difficult. Elder Val?
Elder Freddie, I'm glad you bring this topic up.
Well,
Because it's something that I've been thinking about for a while, and the reason
the property that you have, the house that you have,
yes. So in Jamaica, we grew up on a piece of land in Hanover.
Hanover.
Yes.
I was born in Hanover.
Yeah.
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 Your father too was born in Hanover?
Lucy.
Oh wow, that's
Lucy.
That's country people, man. You guys are a bunch of country folk.
So my grandma died, and they buried her on that piece of land.
Right.
It's a nice piece of land, to a prime land era. And so my goal is to try and get that piece of land. Right?
Oh.
But I always think of it that if I do get it, because I only have one family left from my mother's side, and so on. So, and I think personally that if I go there and it's approved, that she could be dug up,
Exhumed? Exhumed?
Yes,
yeah.
and put somewhere else, and it's not gonna be by me, so that therefore I wouldn't be unclean, you know what I mean? Because it's other people. That's
Like Elder Val, if I could say, how often do you visit?
not often enough.
Okay, well,
Yes.
no. The reason why I'm saying that is I'll let you know. The Jamaicans have quite a thing for expats, meaning Jamaicans that used to live there, no longer live there. They have quite a thing. It's almost like it's open season. So the reason why I asked you if you visit often is that you should have started visiting very often so that they can get familiar with you. Because what happens in situations like that is squatters would start to be on the nice, especially if it's a nice piece of land.
No, it's being taken care of still.
Well, the people that you can't trust is family.
It's true.
Those relatives that you have, those are the ones you have to fear the most. I can't say with regards to all the other islands, but I can speak specifically when it comes to Jamaica. It is open season on those of us who have left the island and now live in foreign lands. And if you don't visit often and enough, and they don't see that you are an active part in that, for you, number one, that's the number one issue. And then number two, for you to actually get the land.
No, true.
So I'm just letting you know, this is not really part of the lesson, but it's the reason why, because what Christopher did in going into Judges allows you to see the character of our people.
That's right.
The book of Judges allows you to see the character of the people who we are from. So when you we have in Jamaica saying like bad-minded, and people are, this is all throughout the Caribbean. They say that people they're bad-minded. So when you read the book of Judges, and when you experience what you are experiencing here today, know that it did not just start when you grew up in Jamaica. The bad-mindedness came from our people thousands of years ago. You can take it back to the time where Moses slew the Egyptian, his own brethren. For his own brethren's sake, he slew an Egyptian that was abusing one of his own people. And he came out the next day and he saw two brethren in a dispute. And basically he's, trying to break it up. And the one brethren says to me, so what? You're going to kill me like how you killed the Egyptian yesterday? And Moses is in shock. Oh, damn. He bounced. Moses ran for his life because it was known that he killed an Egyptian even though he was dressed, looked the part, and was in the status of an Egyptian. So these are your people. So when you go back to to get the land, because my dad came with my Elvis and I and our two siblings, my two sisters, and he came with us to some paper to say, there's land, in Hanover of all places, the same Hanover. And I thought about that. And I said, but when my dad left Jamaica, he never went back. Yeah, he never went back. But you want us to go back there to lay claim for the land? I'm telling you, most likely there's squatters on the land. People have taken over the land. It's theirs. And since you don't go there on a regular basis, they don't see you. They don't know that you're active. You go back there and try to no, my friend, it's open season for you. They will have you in the worst way. In the worst way. I mean, even if you send down material with a contractor down there to build,
That's the worst.
As they lay down the bricks, people are around to take up the same bricks and go with it. If you are not living there, if you haven't established that long relationship, you're going to be in for a hard time. And this is just Jamaica. And of course, when you have the resources to go there and to make it look really good, not just for yourself, but for everyone else that's around. But they're not thinking that at all. So this is just, for those of us who are not familiar, this is the mentality of certain, I'm not saying all Jamaicans, but a very good percentage of Jamaicans that are back home. I think there are more Jamaicans off the island than are on the island. I think so. But
I wanted to give, to testify to that similar story. My grandparents came from Jamaica, really, older, worked their entire lives, toiled the ground, own a whole bunch of property back in Jamaica. And they left it to family there. And when we would go, we didn't make a connection. We went like once every, blue moon kind of thing. And we have a burial plot that's out of our sight. We do have land where family is buried on. But if you ask us where and how and when you do know where it is, like there's the burial plot that we know, and there's a house that we know because we have a house in country and a house in the city.
Oh, wow.
The house in country, the title is in our name, the deed is in our name, everything is in our name, but it is open season. Squatters are there right now. And when you ask family to go and remove them, they're like, I'm not going down there.
Right.
I ain't gonna see them people. And then family that has come up here and want to go back to retire, like a lot of the people that live down there say, if you left Jamaica young and you're trying to go back, be careful, because when you go back, a lot of them get murdered.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the first time that we went to Jamaica as a family, it was on the news that there was an elderly couple from Winnipeg. They went down to Jamaica because, again, they came here, they worked, and they built themselves up. They're ready to retire, to go down and build a home. They found a couple dead, the elderly couple. They found them dead, and they weren't. I think they were robbed too. Yeah, obviously they were robbed. They found a couple dead and robbed, tied up in their house. So these are the type of things that happen, and it is because of that. It's open season on expats if you're a Jamaican. So if you do have that, make sure you have a strong relationship with the people that are there, and make sure you know them inside and out, and that you visit frequently. And we all know that if you're going back home to visit, you gotta bring barrels and boxes. And don't bring no old Brook shoes. They want the current shoe, because in Hanover, up by Lucy, they don't have much, but for some reason they got the latest iPhones, and they got internet connections and satellite dishes and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, they want the latest, you know. Just my personal experience, but I digressed just a little bit. I want to get into this all tie. Believe it or not, everything does tie in. You might think that it might be irrelevant what it is that we're speaking about when we're dealing with kings, rulers, and leaders, but it's all related, and it's very much intertwined in terms of us understanding who we are, where we're going, and where we have been, because what we just experienced in the book of Judges, it lets you know that we shouldn't look at ourselves as just mere black people, if you can understand what I'm saying. There's a reason why there's a regalness about us. There's a reason why that we behave the way that we behave as people naturally. I'm quite sure that you might have had this experience amongst people that you don't see here, but amongst people that are out there. And they ask you, well, why do you think that you're so proper? Or why do you act so proper? If you can understand what I'm saying. Like your friends and people that you are amongst, your coworkers and people that you interact with, they see something different in you. And it didn't start just when you were in Israel. It increased as you're here, because now you understand who you are. You understand that you're just not an average, everyday person, that you are selected, that the people that you come from are selected to be God's chosen people. And then the people within that are the ones that are called out to be servants of the God of Israel. So not every single black person you see is the same as you. Not every single black person. So it boils down to even further. Not everyone in your particular family has been called out to hear this message. So when you do have the opportunity to learn of who you are, what your role and what your purpose is within this sphere, on this planet that we live on, you have to take things serious as to who you are And a lot of times people look at this Israelite nation and don't take it serious. They don't take it serious. I'm going to go into a particular scripture, and this sort of illustrates as to why things are done the way that they are done. And also, this is maybe an exercise that I think that I'm going to start doing, and that is to get into our culture. Certain things that we might know, might not even know, might not be aware of. So Numbers 30, it says this from the first verse. And Moses spake unto the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel, saying, that the thing which the Lord hath commanded. Verse 2, if a man vow a vow unto the Lord, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. So this is when you have that awareness. As a man, this is thousands of years ago. Swear unto the Lord, vow unto the Lord, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. Verse 3, if a woman also vow a vow unto the Lord, and bind herself by a bond, being in her father's house in her youth, and her father hear her vow, and her bond, wherewith she hath bound her soul, and her father shall hold his peace at her, then all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she has bound her soul shall stand. So the scenario is if she lives in her father's home, and she makes a vow unto the Lord, and her father, very important, because we have strayed so far from who we are as a people. This means that she's living in the home of her father. Number one, she knows who her father is. We as a people have strayed so far from this, where so many of us don't know who our fathers are. But this is very specific. The vow shall stand if the father would hold his peace. Verse 5, but if her father disallow her in the day that he heareth not any of her vows, or any of her bonds wherein she had bound her soul, shall stand, and the Lord shall forgive her, because her father disallowed her. So if the father didn't hear her make the vow, and he says, well, no, you can't keep that vow, the father has that right to disallow his daughter's vow when she lives in his home. Very important for us to know. Verse 6, and if she had at all an husband, when she vowed and uttered aught out of her lips, wherewith she had bound her soul, and her husband heard it, and he held his peace at her, in the day that he had heard it, then her vow shall stand, and her bonds wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. So replace the father with the husband in the same home. It's the same scenario. Verse 8, but if her husband disallowed her on the day that he heard it, then he shall make her vow which he vowed, and that which she uttered with her lips, wherewith the vow she bound her soul, of none effect, and the Lord shall forgive her. We don't understand these things today because we grow up in a different environment where there's no structure, there's no father, there's no one adhering to the laws, the statutes, and the commandments at all. Verse 9, but every vow a widow and of her that is divorced, whereas she hath bound her soul, shall stand against her. And if her vow be in her husband's house, or bound her soul by a bond with an oath, and her husband heard it, and he held his peace at her, and disallowed her not, then all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherein she has bound her soul shall stand. Verse 12, but if her husband hath utterly made them void on the day that he heard them, then whatsoever proceedeth out of her lips concerning her vows or concerning the bond of her soul shall not stand. Her husband hath made them void, and the Lord shall forgive her. Are we following along? This is very crucial. Very, very crucial. Verse 13. Every vow and every binding oath to afflict the soul, her husband may establish it, or her husband may make it void. So sometimes you guys might want to get into an argument or a discussion, but I went out and bought a new car and didn't tell your husband. How are you going to go out and buy a new car and don't tell you, hey, these things happen? How are you going to go buy a new car? You're going to have to bring it back. I'm not bringing it back. I'm laughing. Everyone else knows the situation in this scenario. Because we have this thing about us nowadays as the children of Israel that we don't know where it comes from. And we don't know what we got ourselves into. But this is a scenario that, how many of us knew this was in here? Yes?
Maybe two more practical examples, please.
I'm sorry?
I have two more practical examples.
Of this?
Yeah, like you said vows and vows.
Like say for example,
something different.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example, another example.
Yeah.
Say for example, Elder Val and Carol are married. An example. And they live in the same home and they're a husband and wife. And Carol sees a piece of land in not maybe Hanover, but St. James. And she goes and purchases the land. That is a binding contract she has bounded herself to without having told or discussed it with Elder Val. That's a type of scenario. So Elder Val, being the husband in the home, as it says here, he can make the binding contract. He can allow it or disallow it. And that's not understood in terms of the relationship dynamics in the home. So that's an example. So in other words, today is Black Friday? Yesterday? Well, yeah, yesterday. For all the wives, not the girlfriends, all the wives that live in the homes with their husbands, don't go and purchase something that would be substantial, that would affect the family budget, so to speak, if you can understand. Because these things could come up it could cause a severe rift in the family. Is that a good enough example for you? Hold on, close. Before you ask.
Yeah.
That was one example.
That's one. Yeah.
I'll give you another example.
Okay. But before you go to
No. We're not going to do that. We don't have that much time. This is not Monday morning. This is not Sabbath morning. It's not Saturday morning. No. I know your questions. I know how they go. We're not going to get into that at this particular moment in time. I get you. I completely get you. I understand. Because yeah, we can discuss it offline.
Yeah, but I just want to say
no. We're live.
Okay.
We are live and direct. Is there anyone asking any questions in the chat? No, we're good? How are we doing in the chat? By the way, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share this. Share this with as many people as you possibly can. Again, we're dealing with kings, rulers, leaders. The reason why the topic of the vow is so important is because our kings, our rulers, and our leaders must be held to a high standard. With what comes out of your mouth and the vows that you have made. Leadership in this nation, we have vowed the same vows that all of our brethren have vowed. And that's very important. Because when we go into the scriptures and we look at our fathers and our leaders, our kings, the ones that stand out as examples for you to follow were the ones who kept their word. Their word was of the utmost importance. So the words that were uttered from Abraham, from Isaac, from Jacob, to Moses, to Joshua, to David, to Gideon, like the words that they uttered, that's all that they had. The word was all that they had. Your word, as we discussed previously, it is your spirit, because you cannot see. You cannot see the word. So the word is you're giving your word out. As you are an Israelite, someone, and I have to stress this, that you are not just a regular Israelite. You are an Israelite of the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. With that comes a high degree of understanding when it comes to this doctrine, when it comes to this book, when it comes to this word. You are not the average everyday person. So your understanding has to be demonstrated at all times. Not just when you are here, not just when you are amongst your brethren, but you are an ambassador of the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Elder Michael, he says this all the time, but it's the way you carry yourself which lets people know around you that you are not a normal person. You're not supposed to be a normal person. You are supposed to have the understanding that you represent the people. You represent the God. You represent this book. Do you know how many people have tried so hard with all their might, with all their effort and their energy to be you, and fall extremely short, far? It's not even, they fall so far that they can't even live in your shadows with what you have been given. I'll give you a story, and I'll probably come back with some details. There was a man in the 16th and the 17th century. This man was a very simple man. He didn't want much, but because he had leadership abilities and leadership qualities, he was a farmer, basically. This farmer was taken, and he was such an intelligent person. He had such charisma, such drive, and such foresight that they made him a member of parliament. A member of parliament in the British government at that time. This man was so entrenched in this book, our book, this very same book that we read, and his particular branch of Christianity, they were so astute with the scriptures, and they wanted to follow it so much that they surpassed the drive of the Catholics, which is not hard to do, but then surpassed the drive and the abilities of the Anglicans, surpassed everyone. So they were named the Puritans because they were so pure. They were so pure in the scripture, and everything that they did, that they thought was so specific to the scriptures, that this man was made one of their leaders. This particular man went on to become the spokesperson for the people. So he spoke on behalf of the people of England at that time, to the point where they kept on approaching this man, kept approaching him, because the king at the time, King Charles I, was a king that basically lived his life a lot like some of the kings that you see here. A lot like that. They didn't take much from the people. They took everything from the people, didn't give the people much. But they went and they took this particular person and they made him their spokesperson, and he was so convincing and so good, they put him in a position that you can't refuse. And when you see all the things that the king is doing against the people, we need you to represent us. We need you to rebel against the king. You got to understand, this is not something that you could easily do. Because in those days in England, if you were on the throne, they saw you as a direct descendant of God. So whatever the king spoke, it was as if God spoke to the people. So here you had a man, and his goal was to separate and not be ruled by an unjust king. So he has the backing of the people behind him. And so they rebelled against the king and eventually defeated the king. This man went on to execute the king. This is very important. This is recent history. So it's very important for us to know this. Recent history. This man he wanted nothing to do with being a king, but yet they made him a king. Made him a king, not with the title of the king, but they gave him the title of Lord Protector. Lord Protector of England, Scotland, and Ireland. The Lord Protector. He didn't want to be king. He didn't want any of it, but they gave it to him. And because he was so astute in everything that he did, in management, in his army, the way he directed everything, that he was so good that he was undefeated in battle, that you couldn't defeat him. Just so happened, it's a very interesting story, and the reason why we have to remember the story, because at that time he made England a republic. It became a republic. Whereas before it was ruled by the king, now it was ruled by the people that voted in parliament. So it became a republic. You know, we'll get to that. It's a very interesting character because they made him king, although he did the thing that he ran from and didn't want, they made him king because of his leadership and because he was able to rule and direct people. They made him king, and his foundation, everything that he learned was this: our laws, our statutes, and our commandments. They tried so hard for him, but you know when you're trying to take that peg, the square peg, and fit it into the round hole? You fit it so hard, it doesn't work that way. If you are not called by the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, you cannot use his laws, his statutes, and his commandments to rule a people that is foreign to this culture. It has to mix and marinate, because the people, after he became Lord Protector is what they named him, he died shortly after that. Very shortly after that. And so he went on, as I said, he killed the king. This is King Charles I. King Charles I, he had him executed with his compadres and everyone else. So this particular person died. He died of a ague, burning ague, which is here in the scriptures, a fever that you don't even want to know about. So in those days, and so they started to look at it as saying, maybe this is the finger of God. This is the God as to why this person died. So after he died, King Charles II, the son of King Charles I, somehow got away from being murdered. They found King Charles II and brought him to England. King Charles II. King Charles II. By the way, when this particular person was empowered, he outlawed Christmas. He banned Christmas. He banned all the theaters that they used to have in England. He banned everything and tried to make everyone live according to tried to make everyone live in the purest form. But it could not be done. Could not be done. King Charles II, when he took power, King Charles II ordered the people to dig up this man. Dig him up out of his, wherever he is buried. Dig him up because of what he did to my father. We're going to put him on trial. We're going to put him on trial, and then we're going to hang him. Then we're going to hang him. Put him on trial and hang. So dig him up wherever he is, however he's buried, dig him up and put him on trial, hang him. They cut off his head. Yeah, they cut off the head. They put it on a spike, 25-foot spike, and hung it outside of Westminster Abbey, the place when you go to England. Some of us have been there. His head was on a spike along with the other two guys that were with him, but his head in particular was up there for 25 years. The head was on the spike for 25 years. Even when they had to repair the roof of the place. They repaired the roof and put the head back up just to let everyone know. Because he ordered the execution of the king. So this is a story. And the reason why it's so important for us to know, because that allowed for the foundation of civilization on this side of the Atlantic. So the King Charles III that you see, that you have in England right now, is named after King Charles II, who is named after King Charles I. So it all ties in. And they tried to rule the kingdom using this, using our culture, using our laws, using our statutes, using our commandments. Very important for us to know. Because when an Israelite king sits on the throne, Oliver Cromwell, by the way. You looked it up? Very interesting character. But that's his story. So it's very important for us to know that, because he tried to rule his people utilizing our culture and our God, our religion. This is our religion, our culture, our philosophy, our everything. So when you, someone who is an alien to this, try to use this to your advantage, eventually it will tumble, it will crumble, and it will not work. So that's why it's so important for us to know that when we talk to people about laws, statutes, and commandments, be very careful that you don't try and tell someone, well, you have to do this, if you are not an Israelite, if you are not following, if you are not serving the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, all of this, the word that we learned this morning, is irrelevant to you. I wish Ezekiel was here. Because it is irrelevant to everyone else. Do not try to enforce. Do not try to rule people. Do not try to dictate to people your culture on them. If they are not serving the God of Israel, if they are not serving your God, leave them alone. These rules were meant only for us. These laws are meant only for us. These statutes are meant only for us. That's why you have to take it so serious. This is Moses telling you that when you vow a vow unto the Lord your God, keep that vow under every single circumstance. Whatever you do, do not depart from that vow, because your spirit has gone out, your word has gone out. The example that we have is our God. He spoke the word. And to this day, his word has never failed. We are in bondage. We came from slavery because of his word. He uttered his words and said to Moses, Moses, this day speak to the people, behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing if you obey the voice of the Lord, but a curse if you do not. We here try our best to hold on to the blessing. Wouldn't you agree that holding on to the blessing is much more enjoyable than holding on to the curse? Amen. You would agree. So please don't try to convince me not to come to the Israelite nation. Please don't try to convince me to not walk in the path and the footsteps of my elder Shadrach. Why would you do such a thing? Like, why would you try and tell me that the place that I, like, sometimes people, they baffle me with statements that they make. I know for a fact that I could not come to the knowledge, the understanding, the awareness of the words of this Bible, this book, had it not been for the teaching of my elder Shadrach. I'm telling you, there's no way. Because people that are greater than me, people who have studied more scriptures than me, people who have gone to universities, people who have gone to colleges, people who have doctorates and all these fancy things, like, they have all studied, like, and they have volumes upon volumes upon volumes of each and every word, each and every paragraph, every verse. There are volumes written. They have all these scholars, all these people who have done all this studying, all these different types of books, and you don't see Israel in here? You don't see the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob in here? You don't see that Jesus was from the tribe of Judah? You don't see Paul, tribe of Benjamin? You don't see Timothy? You don't see Titus, like, circumcised because he was half Israelite? Like you don't see Passover being kept after Jesus was killed? Like, you guys don't see that? Like what are we reading? Like, who are we learning from? Like, but how can you, like, even open your mouth and say Jesus? Well, if you say Jesus to an Israelite like me, I'm thinking, oh, he's an Israelite. Like, that automatically. He's from the tribe of Judah, fourth son of Israel, like way back here in Genesis. And we haven't even, again, I think we're going to try and conclude next time we're here. Because you got to understand as to why. Last week we spoke about Genesis chapter 49. And we discovered in Genesis chapter 49 that our kings were to come from the tribe of Judah, like the fourth son. And we understand why Reuben wasn't chosen, because what Reuben did with his father's concubine, which is a complete no-no. We understand Simeon and Levi as to why they defaulted, because they put their father's life in jeopardy. When, you said, again, the word went out. You said that these men could now marry our daughters and our daughters could marry yours if all these men circumcised, Simeon and Levi. They were all healing. And then Simeon and Levi went into the entire city and killed all the men. So they defaulted themselves from being, according to Genesis 49, when Israel was blessing his sons, when our father was blessing his 12 sons, he gave them the blessing and he said, this is what I see now. I am about to pass away, and this is the blessings that I'm blessing my sons with. And it came on Judah. And there's reasons why it came on Judah. Not just because he was the fourth, but there were reasons for that. So hopefully the next time we'll get to it. We'll get to it if we don't have a... By the way, for our brethren that don't visit often, Saturday mornings, questions like what Colin was trying to ask, we take those questions up all day, up until 12. Right? up until 12 o'clock, which is why I couldn't allow, as much as I wanted to, as much as I wanted to answer Colin's question and get into it, because it's very thought-provoking. These type of questions are thought-provoking, and we can't get into it really and truly. You have to become a baptized brethren. For those brethren that are out there watching this, you have to become a baptized brethren associated with one of our branches, and then you can be here all Saturday morning, all Saturday afternoon with us. It's part of your incentive. Well, we understand that everybody's situation is the same, so we do understand. So we try our best, and we do educate, but what we have to do is just bring the understanding of our people to all of us, so that we can understand what it is when we say that we are Israelites, and that you are a member of the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. And it's true, we had a service for one of our daughters that came, and so amazing, just the words that would come out of a 14-year-old. And what she said is that she, in her prayer, she said that the learning never stops. She hopes that the learning would never stop. And the learning, it never stops here. We just continue to learn and continue to build ourselves. So with that being said, I believe this is my time. Is it? Unfortunately. Colin? I would like to continue, but for the YouTube purposes, we can't exceed that time period. So again, I want to thank you for joining us. Again, please like, comment, share, subscribe, tune in, and don't ever forget that you are a true Israelite. And if you're not, wouldn't you want to serve the God of Israel? I mean, that is what we all try to do. Everybody says they want to serve God. But if you really and truly want to serve God, why not serve the God of Israel, the God in this book? We would lead you to him, and we'll tell you all about our Father. Peace, everyone.